You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front, Max Trujillo and Matt Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And here is a big cheers to a new year. And
Happy New Year. Happy day before your birthday, Matt.
Thank you very much. And yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays to everybody. Cheers.
We're drinking some delicious beer.
Yeah.
Made by, well, we can't tell you who made this beer.
That's right.
Because the clue is the person that made this beer was also a guest host on an episode that will be showing up soon. That's right. We will have an episode where Matt and I are not on the show.
What?
We have two guest hosts that see life through a different lens than us, say it that way. And we felt like they would convey the story and the content better than we possibly could have, or at least give the perspective that I think the listeners would want to hear it from.
I agree.
That make sense?
Yeah. We matured, and I'm going to pat ourselves on the back and say that we were able to step away, take our hands off the steering wheel, and be like, you know what? Somebody else can do this and guide you through a great episode.
We still were in the other room and like very, very intent on wondering what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's great.
Cool.
So listeners, listen to it. It's going to be coming up soon in the month of January. But today it's just me and Matt. We're alone in a room in the studio high atop the Raleigh building. This is it. The year is about to end. We just recently celebrated 3 years of doing this podcast. I love you, Matt, as a brother. And
Love you, brother.
it's great to do the show. People laugh. I talk to some people that listen to the show, and they love when like one of us gets on the other one's nerves because it happens at times. Me calling you a beef man recently. Yeah, why not? You're a beef guy.
Yeah. Big, huge red meat guy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Terry Caulfield, for making that a fun joke.
Yeah. So every podcast does this, and why not? Why would we be different? This is kind of a year-end wrap-up. This will be... We said this is going to be short. We'll make it short. It's not going to be a long show. But I think we would just want to discuss a little bit of like what had happened in the year of 2019 and maybe some things to look forward to that's going to happen in 2020. Like, for starters, I just pulled up our list of shows. Of course, we do a weekly show and release every Thursday, so we roughly did 52 episodes this year. We had a couple of extra bonus episodes.
Asheville. Yeah.
We were in Nashville.
Chow Chow Festival.
We had the great happy hour here at the kitchen when we first moved in. That's something that was different. We changed our location. That did happen a little bit at the end of the previous year, but we kind of settled in the beginning of 2019 here at the downtown location as opposed to the basement of my house, which I enjoy. I think it's nicer. It's a little more professional. Here.
It's made a huge difference, and just in perception is reality, and how guests come in and perceive it. And I'll never forget way back when Bernie Lubbers, I was doing a work with him, and one of the things, because I was working for Heaven Hill back in those days, I said, "Well, come on our podcast," and he said, "Oh, you said you're bringing me on a podcast, and here I am talking about booze in your friend's basement."
Yeah. It was quaint and it was fine, but we had to grow up and. It's pretty cool. I mean, gosh, the content that we've put out this year, I hope people found it to be as entertaining and informative as we did. I mean, I'm just looking at Maggie Kane was she was the second episode of the year, and that was a great way to kick off. Maggie Kane, of course, of A Place at the Table. They're now going to double the size of their place. They took over the room next door. She was just on Good Morning America and getting like just the right acclaim that she deserves, and not just her, but everybody that works over there. I did a lot of community service there recently. They're really there to do it right. It was awesome to have Maggie on at the beginning of the year to kick it off.
There's a lot of highlights in the year. I'm just going to say by personal note, obviously my second born, my son Gray Joseph, was born this year, so that was a huge highlight for me. And But beyond that, taking it back to the show, a couple of things. Vivian Howard and Ashley Christensen join in a call to talk about Thrive NC, which was also our second year of covering that. That's pretty awesome. Like, how many shows and people have them on a call together to kick that off and talk about such an important event right down here in our backyard?
Yeah.
I think you going out to Charlotte and just like getting reacclimated with the scene over there, because it's kind of been foreign for us, unfortunately. Like, we haven't been as close to Charlotte as we were in the beginning, I feel like. And part of that's probably because we're not able, or we haven't been traveling quite as much this year.
Well, you just had a kid too.
And I just had a kid. So yeah, that's part of the reason.
Needed to be around the family a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then some like quote unquote white whales of just recent fame, obviously Matt Kelly. I mean, that was awesome. And I think that episode speaks for itself.
We had dinner at Mateo last night for Felicia's birthday, and me and Matt and 11 of our friends were hanging out, and I mean, they just do it right. It was just fun. It was
awesome.
Just fun to be in Durham.
Get the cheese and egg thing. That was, I think, the highlight. With you just throw tons of Parmesan cheese and then a fried egg over it, I guess, and then it all kind of congeals together, and you still got the yolk, and then cut it up, and it's delicious.
Again, like going back to his episode, it's like he makes everything seem simple when it's done, and for that part, like, it is kind of simple, but it's the technique.
And it's just the creative idea. Like, one day, like he said, he was probably just sitting there and like writing in his journal, or the idea came to him and he's like, egg and cheese. Like, how can I do that in a restaurant in a way?
Yeah. But then, and obviously recently too, we had Sean Lily Wilson of Full Steam.
Yep.
Which, that guy, we've known him forever, and he's always been around us with the podcast and been, probably like not necessarily in the room, but like at the same festival or so while the mics were rolling. And it's always like, when are we going to have him on? And finally, it made sense. And he didn't disappoint. He lived up to all the great things that he does for the community.
As I said to him on our, or I think it was on our Facebook chat, I said, dude, you need a microphone and an audience in front of you more often.
Yeah, seriously. So, I mean, hopefully we're providing that as a platform for people to speak. Going back to February 21st, Matt wasn't here on this episode because I think you were like in Virginia.
I was in France.
Oh, that's right. You were in France. The ABC Commission had finally passed some fairly significant laws, HB 290 and 192. I don't know. I can't remember the numbers now. But
that was the next iteration, I think.
Sure. But basically, these laws were passing to improve the environment for local distillers, and also just the accessibility of being able to purchase liquor in such an old, archaic system. And so we had Lee Taus, who wrote this awesome article for the Indie Weekly, and her office is literally across the street. I can see it right now. She wrote this perfect article called Buzzkill. We brought Gentry Lassiter in as well, of Lassiter's Rum, and we just had a great, honest conversation about how being a control state is either good, bad, whatever. Just these are the rules of being in a control state, and how it affects local business versus the big business, and where we see change possibly coming from. And I think that, like, I don't know, for me, I really enjoyed doing that episode. I personally want to do more episodes like that in the future. If you're listening, whatever, maybe you feel like pipe down, Max, and just let other people tell their story. But I think every now and then we should have a show where it's more of a forum and a conversation, and maybe we stir some shit up a little bit and we can actually get to a next level.
Well, I think the answer is we tell the stories of the food and beverage scene in North Carolina, and when something happens that is an integral part of the story, it is our jobs, I guess, as hosting this podcast, to tell that story or have it be told.
It was actually Jen Noble Kelly that told me way back in the beginning when we first started doing the show. I said something, it's because I wanted to be a cure eater. And Jen's like, you're media now. And I went, what? She's like, yeah, you're media. You have a podcast. You're no longer like a member of the food and beverage community as in like, a GM or a chef or anything. She's like, no, you're media. And I was almost upset at her for saying that. But then I realized, yeah. And I think over the few years, I've just kind of taken that on as, why not? I didn't ever think I would be part of the media in any possible way. But if that means anything, and if there's any integrity that you should have while doing that, I think you and I, Matt, we have that conversation pretty often. Like,
oh yeah,
we shouldn't do this, or we should definitely have this person on, or this is the narrative that needs to be discussed. And you might think the listeners that like all these people that come on the show are just kind of like what's next or no, there's like a huge strategy for how we pick the people that are going to be on the shows. And we thank everyone for always emailing us to get your stories because we only do 52 in a year. We definitely can't get to everyone, but that's the beauty is that there's so many more stories to tell. Mm-hmm. We have the opposite of writer's block when it comes to doing the show.
Oh yeah, there's never a want for content.
No,
which I want to get to your favorite restaurant openings of the year. What also has been fun, and I think is being, I guess, part of a media, although it's still weird to consider that, has been the opportunities we've had to MC some public events like the NCRLA Awards, which we're going to do again this year in February. That was a lot of fun and felt like it felt very fulfilling to be able to be a part of that and host those awards and kind of guide that evening. And then also, actually, our third year, I've done it twice, and you filled in for, or you did it solo last year, was when we did the Ronald McDonald benefit for the Tasteful Affair. Yeah, and then you started hosting those whiskey kitchen events, which are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I love doing those opportunities because, it gives us a chance to speak to a whole different audience and really interact with people and get like immediate feedback on what's going on the ground.
And to that same point, we released a bonus episode of this year in April. The News and Observer asked me to be on a panel, Community Voices. Ned Barnett was hosting the whole thing, but we had Chidi Kumar and we had Drew Jackson of the NNO, and Roberto Copamates.
Who, by the way, also had a son this year as well recently.
That's
Little
right.
Louis or Luis, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so many
Spelled
babies.
the same way.
Yeah, we just had Blake Gottlieb on, and he had a baby, and Thomas Card and Chris Powers, and the voice of the show, Brian Hoyle. Had, Baxter. Yeah, a lot of kids.
A lot of kids in 2019. It's good. It's a good generation. Well, hopefully a good generation. I'm curious, do you have any notable or favorite restaurant openings this year?
Yeah, well, I'm a little biased by saying that one of the best brewery restaurants that you could go to would be Y Hill Kitchen and Brewing. Obviously, I had a lot to do with that, and that's why I'm going to say I like it. But hey, I've had a lot to do with other restaurants that I didn't get, like, my voice was not heard as much as I would like it to have been. So I don't tell people to go to those places.
Right.
That's not the case here. I think that Y Hill was done as a collaborator with Sarah Abernethy and Chris Borison and Brian Borison. It was done the way a restaurant should be done, and like with total humility. And there's no cockiness there. There's just like, how do we just make a place that everybody wants to go to? So if you haven't been, like, seriously, the beer's delicious, the food's delicious. It has an all-are-welcome menu with like vegan, plant-based menus as well, and a huge patio that overlooks the city. So it's a cool spot. Like that's not just me because I work there. I took the job as a consultant with it because I knew that this was going to be awesome. So
yeah, it is a cool spot.
What about you?
I'm trying to think.
Obviously, Jolie opened, and I have yet to go because it's packed, and I'm so bad about like planning out where I'm going to go. I actually tried getting reservations for Felicia's birthday there instead, but there was no way we could get 12 people in at Jolie. That would be like the whole restaurant. So, but we plan to go in the new year as soon as possible. What?
Well, I'm blanking right now on restaurant openings, but I'll give you something else that another birth of sorts that happened this year. Because of this podcast, I'd like to say the Trujillo Media Company was born. So you launched that. Congratulations on that. And
no one really knows that actually is a company yet, but I'm going to officially launch it in 2020.
Oh, is it not officially launched?
I changed my Instagram handle to Trujillo Media.
But that was your personal Instagram handle that you changed. So are you going to keep it that way?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, because Instagram asked me if I wanted to make my account business anyhow, and I was like, yeah, I guess I usually use it for business, so we'll just do that. But with that, I mean, total shameless plug, but I produce quite a few really great podcasts, like obviously the North Carolina Food and Beverage podcast, but then the Holderness Family podcast, which is always in like the top 5 of the parenting category of podcasts on iTunes.
And you got to host the thing at King's that you did the live podcast, the live recording with the Holderness.
Oh, Holder Nights. It was a live podcast, and that couple, they are just wildly talented and just fun to be around, fun to listen to. So if you, I would say like the demo for them is if typically, if you have kids, if you're married, you're gonna relate to them. They do the silly videos on YouTube and all, and we just happen to be relative neighbors. Our kids go to the same school. They used to dine at Midtown Grill when I was the GM there, so we just know each other. We're friends.
By the way, can I just add something, a total random? You guys did a Holderness podcast when you just come back from France, and we're talking, and I was listening to it recently about traveling with your kids, and I thought about the one thing I do, and I travel with my older son Cam in busy places, is I make him wear a neon or bright hat.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a great ability to find him wherever you are.
He's wearing it right now.
Yeah. So that's just a little parenting tip that I thought of that I wanted to add to that show.
Right, and because Matt and I are great parents, our kids
Thank you.
in another room of the kitchen right now with iPads, and we're just like, go, get out of here.
Brain rotting.
Yeah, so while we could talk to no one in a microphone.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Trujillo Media, if anybody is interested in that, I also do the Pencil Pushers podcast with Mike Rosado. That's about hand-drawn arts, and that's a really thoughtful show. Really, like, if you're interested in art at all, we get deep into it. I do Raising Raleigh with Berta Al-Shakar. She's a local business owner. She's from Lebanon. She immigrated here. She kind of pulled herself up, bootstrapped it, has her own business. She does the international food festival here on Fayetteville Street. And we've had the mayor on. We've had the new council members that have come in, Sage and Jonathan Mountain. They've been on. We've had really great people on the show. And it's just a tiny little show that talks about local business. But, hey, it's all about Raleigh. So if you're a local person out here and you want to know about some of the business leaders that make up this city, it's a fun listen. And with that said, if you want to do a podcast, that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I'm building and producing shows.
Shout out to Max.
Yeah. You've had 3 jobs since you've lived in North Carolina?
I've had 3 jobs since I lived in North Carolina. 4 if you count podcaster.
The podcasting, yeah. But you seem like I feel like you seem like you're the happiest working for the country vintner now. Winebow.
Winebow, yeah. Awesome company, great people, and have supplied a couple of our guests this year, actually, with the French Ladies episode that we did with, empowering women in wine, actually, akin to an upcoming episode. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Secret.
Yeah. And
Francesca Vieira, also a female winemaker.
Yep.
We're going to have an episode that hasn't released yet, but also a female winemaker of Red Tail Ridge Winery. Nancy Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you to Winebow for that, for supplying some awesome guests and content for our show.
It is funny. We have not intentionally sought out female winemakers, but the ones we just mentioned, and Jennifer Reichart, who's been on the show
That's right.
from Sonoma, these are just winemakers that we just find to be fascinating, and they just also happen to be female. But maybe that's a tale of what's to come, because I want to hope that the playing field has been leveled or is leveling, being not just the fact that I have 2 daughters as well, but that sure puts more impetus into it for my own family and all. But it's time, right? Like, it's time for that not to be a big deal. Like, women should be able to do whatever the hell they want. And when they are given the opportunity to do things like make wine, they make damn good wine. So
that's for sure.
Pretty damn cool. What else have we done? Let's see. Oh, man. When we got into it with Dr. Williams about regenerative agriculture.
That blew my mind.
First we met Ron Joyce of Joyce Farms, and he went deep into great agricultural systems and just kind of like really, we just touched upon it on the episode where he was on, and he's like, what you really got to do is have Dr. Alan Williams on. And so he stuck true to that statement, and when Dr. Alan Williams was available, we brought him back on the show with Ron Joyce, and it gives me hope for the future when you hear people that talk about, all we hear typically on the news media is just, we're ruining our country, or we're ruining the environment, we're all going to die, we're leaving nothing for our grandchildren, but there is hope in the sense that, well, no, we just have to understand how to farm and how to respect the earth, and we don't need to be a bunch of tree huggers. We just need to diversify our land. And like
he said it, if we change 10% of the world's farms, that we would change the world essentially. Like 10% converted to regenerative farming. Yeah. Or regenerative agriculture. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just And then, to a point that was made on the episode that we've been alluding to that's going to come out soon with guest hosts, one of the people on the show said, there's voting and you can vote, but what's actually more important is when you vote with your dollar.
Yeah.
And since we're in a capitalistic economy, every time we spend money anywhere we go, it's like we're voting. And so when you choose to vote, big companies aren't bad companies, but there are companies that, maybe you yourself ethically want to support or not. And so think about that when you spend your money.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of that episode with the president of the Piedmont Culinary Guild, PCG.
Yeah, Chris Reed.
Yeah, Chris Reed. And, she really put a thought in my head about the price of chicken and what we pay for it and how much it's worth. And it's still a hard pill to swallow for me when you think about it, but at the very least, I'm thinking about it. And I hope our listeners are as well.
Yeah. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention one of the biggest highlights for our state was none other than Chef Ashley Christensen winning Outstanding Chef of the Year for the James Beard. And I genuinely wrote an article for Raleigh Magazine, and it kind of alluded to that, now that she won this award, and we were already on path for this awareness on a national scale, but I think Ashley's award really put the neon sign turned on, in our community that this is a place to come. And that's where now we have celebrity chefs opening restaurants in this area. And, more people are coming out here because the secret's out that not only is just the food culture, but the environment's great. The weather's great. Housing, the economy, all of that stuff is great. Until, of course, we destroy it by having too many Los Angelinos.
Overpopulating. That's another restaurant that reminds me of that opened, a notable restaurant that opened is, of course, Poolside Pies.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so not only did she win all these awards and she's going to open up a bunch of chicken restaurants as well. By the way, I opened a pizza shop.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, too.
Another episode that, and I'm kind of going randomly, but that I was happy. I don't know if it's a white whale, but once we had them on, I thought to myself, oh, why didn't we have them on a long time ago? But Botanist and Barrel.
Oh, yeah.
Those two, Lyndon and Amy, and I guess she wasn't here, but Kether.
Yeah, Kether's his sister.
What they're doing out there at Botanist and Barrel, it's so wildly different, but yet they're still able to be successful, at least within the state, very successful.
Yeah.
And their product is just delicious. And I find it universal. Maybe some of you are listening don't, but everybody that I've talked to loves what they're putting out.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard to find anyone that's not a fan of Botanist and Barrel, after you've at least poured them something.
Yeah. And I love their creative spirit, but yet they do it. A lot of people do creative things, and it's oh, that's interesting, but it's not good. Yeah. But what they're doing is really good.
By the way, in a year that is mired with politically correctness and speaking properly, for those that don't understand what Matt's referring to, it's an old reference from Moby Dick, the white whale. It has nothing to do with the complexion of anyone's skin or how heavy they might be. It's saying Moby Dick was really hard to catch, and if you get that person on the show, the metaphor is that they are a white whale. So with that said, we also had other white whales in that same metaphor. Chef Andrea Rusing was on our show.
Yeah.
And I was so intimidated to ever ask her to be on the show because I thought she hated me. Turns out she just doesn't know who I am. So I guess that's fine.
Yeah, Andrea Rusing. You can't tell the story of North Carolina and especially the Triangle without her. And then Bill Smith Jr.
Crook's Corner, but he's just legendary.
Published author of 2 and soon to be 3 very successful cooking books.
Yeah. So, what a crazy year. We talked about some of our favorite comedic moments and all. I don't even know if this happened this year or it was the year before, but Matt likes to analyze the way I speak sometimes or the words that I choose. And I think I said that something was in my purview. And then Matt said,
oh, that word has definitely been introduced this year.
And I said,
that's been word of the year.
I'm like, yeah, it's a word. And Chris Morrison at Hill, he's like, I just remember listening to you two talk and Matt telling you how words work. And then you telling him it's in the language, it's in the English language. Hearing Chris retell what he heard on the show might have been the funniest moment possibly on our show. Is just
But I never said that it wasn't a word. I just thought that it was interesting that all of a sudden you were using that word.
I'm now using a new word that I learned.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always trying to grow, right?
Right.
And words are part of that.
Evolving. That is key to success.
So we partnered up with Johnston County Visitors Bureau to do a few episodes with them, and we actually still have a couple more episodes we're going to do with them because they're awesome. And that's something that, not to be like a shameless plug or go out there, but really, if other small towns or counties would ever like us to help feature what they have going on, like we said, we're never starving for content, but this is definitely a way to really focus ourselves. We live in the Triangle, so yes, we're going to have a lot of Triangle focus-based shows, but that's also a product of the fact that so much is happening here. But Charlotte and Asheville and Wilmington and all have great things going on. We're gonna get deep dived into Greenville and in Greensboro. We'll go to Winston-Salem. But seriously, if someone that's a part of any of these organizations wants us to go deeper in their city or their towns, like let us know, because sometimes we just don't know the story that needs to be told.
Yeah. That's right.
And there's so many great stories in Johnston County that we're telling right now. I mean, Redneck Barbecue Lab is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Revival 1869 is a cocktail lounge. I'm talking to the guy over at Instill Distilling, and we're going to have them on. And Deep River Brewing is amazing. The milling factory, Atkinson's Milling out there. All of that stuff is so cool, and you just don't know unless you dive into the area.
And I guess that's right. We do want to uncover those hidden gems. But one of the hidden gems we uncovered this year, which another episode that taught me so much and said, whoa, I actually really like caviar and smoked trout,
Yeah.
the Marshallburg Farm. I mean, that was enlightening to say the least.
Who knew that North Carolina was producing it? And it's funny, I was talking to all of my dads at in a White Guides camping trip, and I mentioned to them, hey, by the way, did you know we had caviar here? And one of the dads was like, yeah, I just read in the Wall Street Journal that it's the #1 caviar in the nation. I'm
wow.
like, oh, really? And he's like, it's the most highly coveted caviar and all. And then I went back and confirmed that, like, yeah, I don't think we realized what we were dealing with when we had them in the room. We're just like, yeah, you make caviar. No, they make the best caviar.
Yeah.
So if you haven't tried it, I mean, seriously, it's not cheap, of course, but it's like $90 for an ounce. But that ounce would go far.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of caviar.
Yeah, you're celebrating a big party. I mean, Valentine's Day will come soon, and just whatever. It's a fun thing to have. The crazy part about at least Raleigh and in the Triangle is next year will be the year of barbecue. I see this coming. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to open a barbecue restaurant. We've already had Longleaf Swine on, and they still have yet to open. They're getting there. They're going to open soon at Transfer Co. But Sam Jones is going to open a place. Jake Wood it looks like Jake Wood's opening a barbecue and oyster place. Yeah. Ed Mitchell and his son Ryan are going to come on to talk about their place. Of course, Ed Mitchell's famously known for opening the Pit back in the day, and he and his son are going to open up an amazing spot. So look for that soon on our show. But there's barbecue everywhere in a place that there was no barbecue in Raleigh proper, that is, with few exception. But that's going to be a big change in our atmosphere of what we did. And it's just funny because when Matt and I started this podcast 3 years ago, we were like, we're going to tell the other stories. Like, we're not just going to talk about barbecue because that's what North Carolina is only known for. It turns out we rarely talk about barbecue, but now we're not going to be able to get
some
away from
people's annoyance that we don't talk about barbecue. But
Wyatt Dixon's going to open one too as well. That'll be a whole hog barbecue in Gateway, where Andrew Olam opened up Union Special Bread. That might be one of the best new openings.
That's probably, because everybody, again, another Universal is just like
because they
gaga
span
over
out.
that.
They sell to the community, so it's not like you're just going to Union Special Bread and just dining there. They're also selling business to business, so any restaurant you're going to that's worth their own salt is getting their product, and now you're eating a burger or you're having whatever, a croissant or something, a cookie or something that Andrew Olam has made. So
talk about a guy that's just crushing it and but was very thoughtful and took the necessary steps to get there. I mean, that was what episode was that?
I have no idea. You put me on the spot. It was early.
I think it was, because it was not long after we had the first.
Andrew Olam was not in this year. He was the first person to be on our show at the kitchen, but it was last year. It was in September.
Okay.
But he opened this year.
Okay.
So we interviewed
Yeah.
him long before he opened, but being as an opening.
Right.
Of
He was still doing pop-ups then at Videri, right?
correct. Yeah. Having Nick Sagan on from Flat River Infusions, which was all CBD. And then a couple months later,
You guys had Nick Saban on?
Nick Sagan. Did I say Saban?
No.
Oh, Nick Sagan. We told him, man, we want to go to your CBD farms when it's in full bloom. And we got the call. And so I went with Mike Rosato and Joey McCarty. And we went over there, and it was crazy. We were in like a marijuana field with acres and acres of it just rolling. And it was the day of harvest. So everything was at full bloom, if you will. And it was what you think it would be. It was insane. And it smelled like it was in full bloom. So that was a unique day. I've never had anything like that. So that was cool, and a product of the podcast. I mean, gosh, we could go on and on.
But I guess one of the things that we have to say is also we brought on some really exciting new sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
And kept our relationship with, of course, the Triangle Wine Company, which, thank you, have been our most longstanding and loyal sponsors. And, we literally could not do this podcast without them. So thank you, Chris and Glenn, for everything that you do and the great service you provide the whole community from Southern Pines to Morrisville, Holly Springs, and Cary.
Yeah. I mean, I hope everybody goes out there and checks them out. They really are awesome. They have the geeky stuff, and then they have the big name stuff. They kind of have everything for whatever. And this could be considered promo, but it's pretty genuine. They have everything you need if you're looking for some good drinks for your house. And then, we brought on new sponsors. The Butcher's Market came on at the end of the year. You'll hear about them a lot in the coming year. The Folks Foundation, we're going to go deep in with Folks Foundation. You're going to hear a lot, but they are doing so much for the community.
They really align perfectly with what we do here at the podcast.
Yeah, they're a form of media as well, but they do theirs more in writing and online. But they give out grants to companies, and you'll start hearing on our episode once a month who the grants were awarded to based on a bunch of different factors. But there's a lot happening there. Folks Foundation is something that you're going to see grow and really help support the community. So that's fantastic. ehungry.com's coming on soon as well. It's just great. And then, of course, Proof Alcohol Ice Cream, which everybody goes home with Proof Alcohol Ice Cream at the end of the show. Matt, I'll let you go home with a pint if you like.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you go home with one as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You get to pick it out. And then, a former sponsor of the show, but I think they'll come on again once they get open in Holly Springs, is Bestow Baked Goods. And they've been great friends of the show and help keeping the lights on as well.
Yeah, Kyle and Heather Sutton are just salt of the earth, great people. And I mean, that's what's great. All of our former sponsors on the show, we've all just remained friends with because we're just here to support everybody. And we don't have really an agenda. I mean, to be honest, like if we could do this financially and not do anything else, then yes, that would be our agenda. But we do get to do this, and it does pay a little bit of bills, but it also just kind of helps us do what we want to do. And so thank you for listening, because by you listening and telling a friend, it creates a wider net for our audience and makes us sexier to sponsors, and then more people want to support the show. So it's all about our listeners and going out there. That's it. Write us some reviews.
Please, seriously. 5 stars are preferred, as Brian Hoyle would say.
Yeah.
But the one thing I am excited, it's a little material, but it's almost a symbol of, I guess, our success. And maybe one of you will be getting one of these fine material rewards soon. But finally, we've been able to re-up our hat supply, and we are going to have new hats designed by MRC, Mike Rosato's company, in the near future. And, we'll get a bunch of them and maybe hand them out to some listeners for some contests. Yeah,
we'll see how that goes. That'll be fun. So, Matt, your birthday is New Year's Day.
It is.
You will be 52, is that right?
In 10 years.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're actually younger than I am. I'm the older one, everybody, by about 3 months.
Yeah.
But
that's why you have more gray in your beard.
Yes, that's right. My kids are older, so
there you go.
Wait till
that ages you. Trust me.
Yeah. So happy birthday, man!
Thanks, dude.
And you're gonna go spend some quality time with the family, getting out of town a little bit, which will be great. As far as the new year, for one, to the listeners, like I said, reach out to us. You can either hit us up at max@ncfbpodcast.com or matt@ncfbpodcast.com. Matt definitely saw this because he changed it in the show notes, but every now and then we'll put I'll just talk shit to Matt in the show notes and see if he's reading all the things that I put in the show notes. And so at the very end, I said, for any comments or concerns, email Max at NCFP Podcast. And if you have any complaints, email Matt at NCFP. It lasted like 3 episodes. And then I looked at it and I'm like, damn it, he found it and he erased it.
Oh, I found it from the beginning. I just thought it was funny at first. I was like, But nobody ever emailed me. So I guess I didn't have any complaints.
No complaints.
But or you can direct message us through Instagram, which we love, and it's a really good form of communication.
Yeah, and props to the Kraken, Lauren Crookton. Am I saying it right, Lauren? Probably not. Crookton? Lauren Crookton.
Crookton. I think it's Crookton.
Crookton?
We should probably know how to say it.
She works with us, and she also writes for Raleigh Magazine, and she is awesome.
Yeah.
She does so much. She helps write all the social media content. She posts everything for us, fills in when we need her. Lauren, we love you. Thank you for being a part of the team. I guess, what else? Have we...
Thank you to our wives. No,
I'm kidding. Of course, yeah.
Thank you to our wives, Sarah and Felicia, that help support us and give us the feedback that we need and be like, do you guys sound like idiots or do you sound like somewhat competent? So,
and then we don't take that advice.
That's right. But at least we heard it.
Yeah.
that says something for that. Yeah, no, but thank you to everybody for listening, and thank you for the people that like our posts on Instagram. That helps as well. And more importantly, thank you for clicking, subscribing, and download. But seriously, subscribe if you haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I guess we need to get out of here.
Happy New Year, everybody. Go out and eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NCF&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.